And I am with the Office of International Programs. Welcome to the International Symposium. We thank you very much for attending. This session is titled Engage, Collaborate, and Transform, CSU's Mexico Strategy for Binational Success. It is presented by Alonso Aguirre, Dean of the Warner College of Natural Resources, Kathleen Fairfax, Vice Provost for International Affairs, Eduardo Mejera Hillman, affiliate faculty of the Department of Fish, Wildlife, and Conservation Biology, Leslie Heron, Executive Director of the Salazar Center, and online we're joined by Joseph DeBerti, Professor in the Department of Chemistry. And yes, so before we begin, I would like to ask you all to please use our QR code here for a survey. If you can leave us some feedback, that would be fantastic. We were having some slight problems with it this morning, so if it is not working, oh, it is currently working, perfect. So if you can, please use that here in the room. If you are joining us online, you will see a link displayed on the screen at the end of this session. Also, if you're joining online, you should receive an email from us with a link to the survey. All right, with that, thank you, and I will turn it over to our fantastic panel.
Thank you, Mason. I really appreciate it. Can you hear me in the back? Oh, we need the mic. The clicker doesn't work. So
it doesn't work? Okay.
Can you advance the slide?
Yes.
Yeah. So these are at least our panelists. Again, I'm Alonso Aguirre, Dean of Warner College of Natural Resources, first-gen American, first-gen college graduate. I got my degrees here, so I'm a Warner Ram. And so, obviously being from Mexico, makes it very exciting to learn about a center in Todos Santos, just a few miles south of where I was born. So it was very exciting. When I was a graduate student, 25% of graduate students at Warner College were international, and at least 20 to 30 students from Mexico across the colleges. Now we have less than 5% international students. And I don't know too many Mexican students, maybe I know one in the college. So we want to change that. So President Parsons selected Mexico as a priority country in her tenure to increase enrollments, to foster connections, and that engagement with Mexico is a commitment from CSU. For many years, CSU faculty have worked in Mexico. For example, I have here Brian Finchum, Director of Center for Protected Area Management, in which teaching for many years courses here at CSU in Spanish. I was the first GTA back at the time, so it's kind of fun to say. And of course, academic changes with Todos Santos is a symbol of deep-rooted partnership. We know that our work doesn't stop there. The task of President Parsons and Rick Miranda, I was approached with others to figure out how can we do a comprehensive Mexico strategy to broaden and deepen our engagement in Mexico. And so right now, of course, it's increased enrollments at Todos Santos, but also how can we go to other institutions across the country and working at CSU. And what is important with Mexico, besides of being our neighbor, is our US largest commercial partner. Not according to the current president, but that's okay. We'll talk about that later. And Mexico is our second largest export destination and third largest trade partner for Colorado. So I say 97,000 jobs in our state are generated by that exchange in resources and goods from the country. So next slide, please. So to ensure these efforts are impactful, we're pursuing 4 strategic objectives. First, establishing a Mexico Center. As you may be familiar, there is an Africa Center that's been very successful under Kathy Galvin's leadership. And basically faculty and staff and scientists are affiliated to the center. Of course, Africa is a huge continent, but that model provided to be successful to increase leadership and projects in Africa, in different countries in Africa. In fact, the Warner College has footprint in 81 countries, projects across every continent, and then in Africa, and a few in Mexico. But the idea is that this center that Joseph Verdi, who's going to join us online, will talk about strategy. Of course, student mobility. We would love to bring more students from Mexico, as well as sending more students over there. Of course, the Department of State categorizes Mexico as a dangerous country, but we got to figure out how to make people more comfortable to send our students there. But also, there's barriers to bring students this way. Visa issues, scholarships, funding. Another way that where Eduardo is heavily more strengthening our partnerships. We're committed for those collaborations with universities, NGO, government agencies, industry, and I think we can really deal with issues like sustainability, climate change, biodiversity loss, and economic development. And really, President Parsons wants a sustainable Todos Santos center, and that has represented a challenge right after, during the pandemic, after the pandemic. And Kathleen will give us her overview on what some of the strategies that we would like to see moving forward. So with that, we're gonna focus in collaboration, innovation, and global engagement, as CSU is not only a university for Colorado, but an institution with global vision. Our first speaker is Leslie Haroon, Executive Director of Salazar Center for North American Conservation. Leslie has a law degree, but also the center is advancing conservation innovation. She previously directed the Next System project and funded Partners for a New Economy. A former Oak Foundation officer, she holds a Harvard Nonprofit Leadership Certificate and chairs Oil Change International Board. So, Leslie.
Thank you, Alonso. Dean Aguirre and I go way back. I think we've known each other for
at least
20, 25 years. He took me on a field trip once to capture and tag manatees, which I still remember to this day was one of the highlights of my career at the Oak Foundation. So thank you, and I'm really excited about the possibility of the Mexico Center and look forward to working with all of you to make it a reality and a success. And I think this is a real critical time for CSU to be developing the Mexico Center, because building strong relationships across educational institutions, with nonprofits, with government, and donors across the two countries, I think is really critical right now. The Salazar Center was founded in 2017 by Ken Salazar. He's former Colorado State Attorney General, US Senator, US Secretary of the Interior, and most recently Ambassador to Mexico. And we're really glad to have him back in the United States to work with us now. And he founded the Salazar Center because he believed in the power of connecting and investing in people across the continent to collaboratively and connect and collectively conserve the lands and waters that we all share, depend on, and love. Our mission is to spark conservation, innovation, and action to secure a thriving future for North America's lands, waters, and the life they support. We are an externally facing center, an impact-oriented center, and we bring people together across divides to solve shared conservation challenges. And for us, divides include sovereign borders, cultural differences, and sectoral and disciplinary silos. We also work to dispel the primarily Western notion that conservation is really about setting aside lands and waters to protect them from people and development. So in addition to bringing people together, we focus on conservation that connects our wildlands with our rural areas, with our urban centers, and that embraces people as a vital part of nature and conservation. So we fundamentally do two things. Next slide, please. And the first one I would describe as conservation practice. We use applied research, collaboration, and capacity development to generate solutions and adaptive learning to complex environmental challenges in specific regions. And most of the regions in which we work are transboundary regions. So at the border between Canada and the US or Mexico and the US. Our best example of this is the Peregrine Accelerator. The Peregrine Accelerator is a searchlight and accelerator for place-based conservation solutions with breakthrough potential in North America. For each accelerator, when we go about deciding where we're going to work, we identify important transboundary ecoregions. We call them nests. And then we, through a competitive RFP process, we identify 8 to 9 promising conservation projects, typically put forward by project teams that include small to medium nonprofits, indigenous and tribal groups, researchers, and or municipalities. So it's typical for us that not just a single organization would apply, but that a whole group of organizations would apply together. The accelerator offers a 6-month tailored outcomes-oriented program to the cohort of teams. And these teams, a cohort of teams that's responsive to each region's ecological, cultural, and socioeconomic needs and opportunities. And what we do is, once we identify those first group of teams, we spend a good amount of time with them trying to understand what their strengths and weaknesses are and what their needs and opportunities are. And then we develop a tailored curriculum to fit around all of that. Our first accelerator was held in the Rio Grande, Rio Bravo River Basin, and you can see the map behind you. And it brought together 9 teams. And together, all of these teams comprised about 40 individuals representing 20 organizations from the US and Mexico. Each team received $10,000 in early stage funding to support staff participation and or implementation of the project. And at the end of the program, 3 teams were awarded an additional $75,000, $50,000, or $25,000. Respectively. Next slide, please. So just an example of one of the teams that we worked with in the Rio Grande and the Rio Bravo. The Northeast Mexico Agave Restoration Network was a collaborative effort between bat conservation and 4 nonprofits in Mexico. So these groups are working together to address the degradation and fragmentation of agave habitat that's led to significant declines in the Mexican long-nosed bat. Over the past 20 years, they've declined by 50%. And simultaneously threatening the livelihoods of the rural communities in Mexico who rely on agaves for economic and cultural benefits. And I would be remiss if I didn't point out that we also rely on the agave and the bats and the local communities for our tequila and mezcal. And so we don't want to endanger those as well. So it's a very important project. This project team represents more than 30 partners representing civil society organizations, ejidos, which are, if you don't know what they are, they're a community-owned piece of land used for farming, private landowners, Mexican federal and state agencies, industry, and researchers. So it's a massive project, even though there are only 5 groups, and it's taking place on a very large area. So over the course of the 6-month accelerator, it's a very intensive 6-month class, we helped create a cohesive and intensive learning environment, not just for this team, but for the cohort as a whole, that helped them improve their project strategy and implementation, helped improve their fundraising success, allowed them to activate their stakeholders better, really helped them focus on stakeholder engagement, and to monitor and assess their outcomes and impact. Importantly, this program also built a strong US-Mexico community of cohort members throughout this entire region. It gave them a bird's eye view of the region's physical and natural systems and how everything is connected, and of the conservation work that's happening across the region. It helped them see the basin as a whole, to identify and be responsive to external influences in the basin, be they political, economic, or cultural, so that they could better manage those potential influences to their projects. And it built understanding and new relationships and a collective purpose across the entire basin. This whole cohort continues to work together. We convene them virtually on a regular basis. And so that learning is continued over time. This year, we just closed the RFP for applications to our Peregrine cohort for 2025, and that's taking place in the North Atlantic region, so the Eastern Canadian provinces and the Northeastern US. And in 2026, we'll be back to the borderland, so we're focusing on the Baja Sonora region. Next slide, please. So the other thing, second thing that we do, and this program is a little bit less developed, is what I call conservation evolution. So we evolve conservation thinking and practice by supporting robust research, collective sense making, and collaborative solutions development to contribute to idea generation, good, effective, evidence-based policies, and shifting mindset. So helping people better understand the social, economic, and cultural value of biodiversity. Our cornerstone project within this bucket is our biannual international symposium on conservation impact. This year it's happening in Vancouver from May 5 to 7. We'd love to see all you there. You're all invited. If you go to our website, it's salazarcenter.colostate.edu. You can read more about it and sign up. But basically, its purpose is to advance and accelerate outstanding conservation across the continent, and it brings together leaders who are practitioners, policy professionals, academics, and donors from across Mexico, the US, and Canada. How am I doing on time?
I think maybe 2 more minutes.
Okay. And the symposium generally addresses emerging and critical issues and showcases best practices, new thinking, and innovative partnerships to increase learning and effectiveness across the whole field in North America. This year, a thread that will run through our symposium is the critical conversation that we need to have about the shifting political landscape that's reshaping many of our long-held agreements, relationships, and institutions that have underpinned the work of conservationists across North America for many decades. We'll focus on how we protect and measure our gains, reorient our economy to become a force multiplier for environmental outcomes, and transform current upheaval into opportunity. If we can do that, we believe we need to have a community conversation about that. In 2027, we are planning our next symposium to be in Mexico. Fortunately, the Todos Santos campus is too small, but we are excited about that. Our next program, which is just about to launch, probably in the next couple of months, is an online essay series called What's Next for Nature? Perspectives in Political Ecology. And this program is designed to give voice to differing points of view about the complex relationships between our human-centered systems of economics, law, and political science and our natural systems. The inaugural essay series will focus on the relationship between conservation and democracy. And we've chosen democracy because of the convergence of our biodiversity and climate crises, with the significant political and socioeconomic shifts underway in North America, and because democracy is a priority for CSU. We're inviting right now people from across North America and from diverse cultures and sectors to offer their ideas, imaginings, and experiences of nature in balance with human societies. And we are particularly right now looking for essayists from Mexico and Canada and Indigenous and tribal communities. So any ideas, please reach out to me and let me know. And then for us, I think the most exciting program that's related to the Mexico Center, which is still in development. So the Mexico Center is in development, and this program for us is in development, is our cross-border fellowships and applied research. So this program, which we hope to get up and running by 2026, will support new thinking, research, and policy development focused on creating new opportunities to protect and enhance North America's natural security. So the vibrant and rich living systems that provide the foundation for our continued health, wealth, stability, and peace as independent societies throughout North America. And so I hope that as we develop this program, that we can continue to work with all of you at this table to explore program synergies between the Mexico Center and this program, and build relationships across institutions, civil societies, organizations, and government. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Joseph Duverdi, professor at the Department of Chemistry here at CSU. Joseph was selected to lead this new Mexico Center. He doesn't speak Spanish, but his wife does. And actually, he's on some sort of course, right?
He's right now in intensive Spanish and talking to us.
There we go. He's vice chair of the University Faculty Council, and he's the incoming inaugural director of the University of Mexico Center. And he would like to develop some opportunities that he will highlight in his speech. So Joseph, you have 10 minutes. We have to time you.
Thank you, Alonso. Saludos desde Baja California Sur. I am honored and privileged to address the symposium at the beginning of our work on the Mexico Center. It has been mentioned just by Dr. Jaron. There are a number of important things that we have to keep in mind, and one is I'll note in particular the issues of mezcal, since last night we had a social meeting and of which we had a lot of mezcal tasting going on. So it's very important that we keep that going. We've come to appreciate, everyone agreed this morning that that was an important part. What I'd like to do here is tell you about our plans for the launch of the Mexico Center. We are at the very beginning here, while much work has been done in Mexico, especially in Todos Santos and elsewhere, the center is at its launch. Think of it as we're at a NASA rocket launch, and we're fueling the spaceship right now. So we're getting ready to go, and we hope to have a successful launch very, very shortly, with a lot of activities going on there. I'll walk through a number of different notions about the center. We have objectives, we have methods planned, our feeling is we have nothing but possibilities that we can do, and we'll still try to begin the notions at this early stage of how the center will contribute to the success of our initiative in Mexico. We have a number of objectives, and you'll see these on the slides. They're a little bit verbose, but I'll just highlight them. We certainly want to count the number of people who are traveling back and forth between Mexico and United States, Colorado, bi-directionally. We want to have both, and especially we want to see increased traffic at CSU TS, as it's called, as a shorthand, Todos Santos campus. We have objectives of academic collaboration, student exchange. We're down here, I am down here with a number of other Coloradoans from Fort Collins campus on a language exchange. Dr. Aguirre is correct. I don't speak Spanish, but I am aprendo el español. So we're working on that very, very hard. Here. Next slide, please. we're going to be one of the more important things here. We have the tangible, immediate needs of working on some of the exchange, but cultural understanding is an underlying and an overriding part of what I feel is extremely important in Mexico. I think while we're so close to each other, Mexico and United States, there's so much to learn about each other's cultures, and we have nothing but good to gain by increasing that understanding. So there are immersion programs, language acquisition. We'll be working on public engagement activities. We want to support the research that many faculty have already begun down here in Mexico. There's instruction, scholarship going on, and the research activities are extensive. There's a rich environment in the Baja that is primarily a desert environment in a coastal setting with Todos Santos as an oasis in the middle of it. So there's a lot of things to do. There are scientific activities and there are cultural activities. There's a rich and vibrant history in Mexico that we can learn a lot from and work with. Next slide, please. The way we're going to approach this from a faculty perspective is to engage, encourage, and support a community of faculty, staff, and students who are interested in working in Todos Santos and collaborating with Mexican colleagues and using their individual disciplines. Again, we have a number of STEM activities, yet I think there are an enormous number of CLA type possibilities, business school activities. There are vet school activities, all of them, engineering. There's an enormous amount of engineering done and needs to be continued in there. The Mexico Center aspires to convene partnerships, to have lectures and events that gives us a community, to build a community. Next slide, please. In detail, we're going to be working on a couple of particular activities. And again, I don't have a lot to say what we've done because we're just getting started, but we're going to put together an advisory committee to assist me in planning activities and events. We'll be coordinating with the OIP. Hold off on that. We're going to coordinate. Thank you. Coordinate with OIP and the faculty and affiliates to develop and promote activities, more courses and programs. There are ongoing programs. We want to increase those numbers. We want to do more of the same good. Next slide, thank you, please. You'll be hearing from our Eduardo, our Mexico engagement specialist on strategic planning and initiatives. He and I have already begun speaking, and there's much work to do in terms of developing those activities. It's also important to be working in Fort Collins and Denver to provide the important structural support for faculty members that needs to take place in order to both secure extramural funds, that's important, and also have the structural activities within the campus that make it possible for faculty to spend time in another campus. That's not always a trivial task, and we're working on some of the or planning to work on some of the activities to make that happen. Next slide, please. Again, I feel there's a lot of blue sky here, cielo azul, so that we can do a lot of things here. Next slide, please. We expect to see more semester exchange programs, bilateral. There are a number of Mexican students in the Baja who are interested in taking advantage of the education that is possible with Colorado State University. Study programs, faculty-led short-term, medium size. Like I said, business, history, environment are all important topics down here. We need to establish the methods that faculty can do research sabbaticals. in Baja and in the mainland also. There's plenty of opportunities for those kinds of activities. Next slide, please. There are underway a number of joint research initiatives. Faculty on campus, Fort Collins campus, there are a fair number of folks who are working on joint projects with others in Mexico. I know as a reviewer of some scientific journals, I see a number of different activities and cooperative collaborations between U.S. and Mexico investigators. So it's a real opportunity waiting to be expanded. We plan to have conferences and symposia like this one and others. We would like to determine what we can do in the Todos Santos facility here to host more symposia here. There will be international ones, and there's no reason why we shouldn't be doing them here when they're relevant to here.
Just 1 minute.
Pardon me?
You hear me? 1 minute.
Oh, thank you. Good. I'm almost done here. Next slide, please. Great. We have cultural engagement programs. You can see on this here. The rich culture, which it combines North American indigenous culture and a European culture. We can get the best of both worlds. Next slide, please. Similarly, with professional development internships, we plan to work on developing a robust presence in these very same areas. Next slide, please. Some of the work that has already been taken place is development of some technology, right? We've begun the process of a website, Mexico Center at colostate.edu, as both a organizing principle and a disseminating principle. So we can use this here to share information. We have a list prepared so that we can you can all sign up for a list, yet another list, but we think this will be a good one here, and a shared email address for the sustenance of the program. Next slide, please, which is my last. I'd like to thank the folks that I've already had enormous number of conversations with to leverage the existing work that's been done on campus and around the world, and look forward to working with all these folks again and again and again. Thank you for your attention today.
Thank you, Joseph. Perfect timing. Our next speaker is Kathleen Fairfax, Vice Provost for International Affairs here at CSU. She really is working on advancing campus internationalization, and she played many leadership roles at many institutions of Southern Dakota State, Arizona State, Michigan State, and Purdue. And with that career on multiple universities, she brings extensive experience in global education and study abroad administration. Kathleen?
Thank you. So, morning everyone. Thank you for being here. I'm going to talk just briefly about the Todos Santos Center. I think by now most people in the room are going to know what the Todos Santos Center is, but just so we're all operating from kind of the same page, and also so you see how it might fit into a broader Mexico strategy. So next slide. We have the vision there that you can read, but what's really important, I think, is our guiding compasses. And we talk about that it's bilateral. So we're guided by the CSU land grant mission and values that CSU has, but we're also guided by Baja California SOAR community priorities, which we've assessed in various ways. And I'll talk about that next. So next slide. So we have done to be a good and sustainable partner within the community of Todos Santos. We've done some community needs assessments. First, right after the center was launched in 2015, and there was a lot of kind of turmoil at the time and misunderstanding about its purpose and our role in it versus real estate developer, and it was all kind of mixed up together. So we thought it was important to try to take the pulse of the community in Todos Santos, since they were going to be our host, where our students would go to learn and to study, and our faculty. So we did a community needs assessment, and then we repeated it 5 years later in 2020, and so we're due to repeat it again. It didn't change a lot from 2015 to 2020. As you'll see what the priorities were at the time, and it's come out in both surveys, education, youth engagement. Todos Santos is a relatively small community. It's grown really quickly, but it's still only about 9,000 people. And it's a fishing community, now also very big in the tourist economy. A lot of expats visit and live in the Todos Santos area, both American and Canadian expats, and a few from other places as well, but predominantly American and Canadian. So the community doesn't have a lot of resources for the young people. So youth engagement was something that was real important to them. Also language classes. In general, Mexico as a whole, as a country in terms of Latin America, has one of the lowest rates of English proficiency of all the Latin American countries, even though they're on our border. And there's a lot of cross-border movement in terms of high school leavers and general adult working population, one of the lower levels of English proficiency. So the community identified we need more instruction and better instruction in English. They really value the environment in Todos Santos and are struggling with many of the things that happen in the US, but in a very resource constrained environment in Mexico. And so they talked about one of their big priorities is how to develop the town and the resources and the opportunities while at the same time respecting the environment. Public health and business training. So these all came up as community needs priorities in both 2015 and in 2020. So next slide. So what we've done is try to develop programs that fulfill the land grant mission of CSU while at the same time both respecting and adding to solving some of the community needs issues. So we have a suite of programs that are offered in Todos Santos. We have credit and non-credit programs for students. They can be as short as 1 week. They can be longer. We have had whole semester programs, semesters generally being a little shorter than they are here, maybe 10 to 12 weeks. We've had individual kinds of courses. We've had interns from both CSU Fort Collins and CSU Pueblo spend a semester doing an internship in their field of study. Most recently, one from Pueblo in social work, doing her internship there, offering both undergrad, which is primarily what we do, but there's also some graduate, as was mentioned, the vet school sends students down for practical training alongside Mexican veterinarians, participating in a lot of free spay and neuter clinics for the pet population within the Baja California region. Also working with other universities and making those connections, especially with our faculty in the respective areas, mostly there aren't any universities in Todos Santos. So in La Paz, which is about an hour or so, depending on the weather and how muddy the road is after heavy rains. We have some connections with the with one of the main universities in La Paz. We also do quite a bit of the English language that we offer for the community. Pre-pandemic, we did a lot aimed at the kids, and it was all free. So we had language instruction. They would go to the schools. They do after-school programs. Since the pandemic, there's been quite a bit more of community and of Spanish for special need or English for special purposes. So for hospitality workers, really honing in on the vocabulary and the culture that typically their clientele is going to be looking for, and they're people that work in the hospitality industry and in the greater region. We also have worked on we tried to get started some research opportunities. It's been a little bit slow going, and I'm hoping that increased efforts on the part of Eduardo, who you'll hear from next, as well as Joseph with the Mexico Center, to try to convene faculty and get the sense of possible research activities of our faculty. One thing we've just started is a research project with the Mexican government, with their Government of Agriculture and Rural Development, with their Ministry of Agriculture and Rural Development. And so they had been working on breeding a type of food for cows that are in arid areas, so they can't grow a lot of grass and other things. Like Todos Santos is a total desert climate. And so they have bred these nopal cactus, which we have here in Colorado too, but they bred them without the needles. And they bred them so they're genetically modified to have the nutrients that cows need. So they have these needleless nopals, but they wanted to actually test them on land in the region and test them with various levels of no irrigation, very mild irrigation. What will it take to really upscale and make this a lot bigger? So we, in Todos Santos, we also have, we have the land where the center, the student residences and the classroom and the faculty apartments are located. And then just like a quarter mile from there, we have about 3 acres of land that has a couple of barns on it, but it's mostly been not used. So we worked with the Mexican government and our college bag has gone down there, and they've worked on dedicating some plots of land to this nopal research project. So that's the first time that there's been actual, like, on the ground kind of research involving both CSU faculty and then a partner in Mexico, which happens to be the Mexican government.
1 minute.
1 minute. All right, next one. So we have a lot of regional collaborations. They're listed here, especially the universities in La Paz, and we really focus on community organizations that we are long-term partners with, and that our students can really benefit from experiential education with these. Next slide. For the first time, we did a semester program that was 6 weeks in Todos Santos. It went to other places, but this was for first-year students. So developing a program for a first year abroad, the global semester, and it was we're doing it again this fall in wildlife sustainability in Spanish in both Costa Rica and then ending up in Mexico. Next slide. We really want to work on Mexican partnerships, enhancing the student mobility like we talked about. We've had a couple of different ideas about how to do that, but that is, I think, all that I am doing. And now, are you talking now, Eduardo?
Yeah.
Yeah, go right ahead.
Eduardo is next. Eduardo Najera Hillman is affiliated faculty, as Mason said earlier. He was hired as a contractor to help us engage Mexico and develop connections across Mexico with many universities. He has 20 years of experience in conservation and across academia, government, and NGOs. He has a degree from PhD from Auckland University of Technology and led many marine projects with federal agencies and NGOs internationally. So, Eduardo.
Thank you, Alonso. Yes, well, I'm Eduardo, and I live in Todos Santos. I actually live there with my family since like 5 years ago. I moved there from La Paz, and before that from Ensenada, which is all in the Baja California Peninsula. And yes, I've been working a long time in binational collaborations with Mexico-US. I used to be the director of an NGO called, based in California and based in Ensenada, Mexico, called the Wild Coast, and always doing these transboundary binational collaborations. I have gone through like many of these periods where things seem that are not going to work. But what I learned is that we have to continue also always working and looking at ways of continuing this collaboration, because it's critical. We're neighbors, we share people, we share culture, we share nature, and it's really important to continue doing it. That's why I'm a strong believer of this initiative. When I met Alonso a few years ago, I was totally convinced that this totally makes sense. I moved to Todos Santos. I saw the Todos Santos Center, CSU, And I wonder myself, what is going on here? What are the possibilities here for having this center to have more impact, to be more involved in the community? How can I get involved? And suddenly it happened. No, I met Alonso. Later, I met President Parsons, and finally, I got to start working on this initiative. So the partnerships is very important. How do we work there if we don't have like the connections? For that to happen, it's always face to face. It's the most important. No? We can go to Mexico. We can go to Mexico City, participate in student fairs, go to high schools, and do all these recruitment activities that are very important. And they may bring students, Mexican students, to CSU here in Fort Collins that will start doing those connections. The people always do the connections. In the terms of graduate programs, it becomes a little bit more interesting when it comes to these partnerships, because sometimes we have to find the ways, the resources, the economic resources for Mexicans to come over here. No? Usually in the science fields, is difficult. Most of the science is done in public universities in Mexico. And usually the people that go to those universities don't have the means, the economical resources to move to the US. So it's really important to find the ways to bring those people. No? So we've been talking to federal government agencies that provide that funding. Like now it's called, it used to be called the National Council for Science and Technology. Now it's the Ministry for Science and Technology. And we've been trying to engage them for them to provide scholarships for graduate students, pay part of the tuition, medical insurance, transportation for students to be able to come here. And then find the ways to, with help with the OIP and the colleges, to do the matching funds for make it real, making it happen. Just recently, we signed a collaboration agreement with this trust from the Mexico National Bank, where students can ask for a loan, very student-friendly loan, like very low interest, and they can come to CSU now to any graduate program and apply for those loans, which are very friendly. Like, so if you know someone who wants to bring a graduate student from Mexico, tell them that there's an opportunity there for a loan from the Mexico National Bank. We're also working with the National Autonomous University of Mexico. UNAM is a huge university, has like 300,000 to 400,000 students. We've been working with them to find out the way to bring undergrad students for a short stay during the summer here at CSU Fort Collins. And this is a good example of what that is happening. Here's a picture. How do we do it? Like, it's very difficult to do it without people not knowing each other. No? So we have to take sometimes the faculty from here, from Fort Collins, go to Mexico, do a seminar, get to know other faculty there, get to know the students. And that's what we did last year. We went, Dr. Susan Sunoda from the Molecular, Cellular, and Integrative Neurosciences department. And we went to the Neurosciences Institute in UNAM in Mexico City. She gave a presentation, she met the faculty, she met the students, very high level students. Those students get, first of all, to get into the National Autonomous University of Mexico is very difficult. Only 10% of the people who apply gets in. Then once you're in, to get into the neurosciences program, you have to go through another filter, on which only 5% of the students that apply get in there. So it's a very small class of very high level students that she was able to access to. Now, the opportunity has been given by the OIP. They have a program on 4 weeks. They will provide accommodation and board here in Fort Collins. And UNAM is going to provide airplane tickets and insurance, and likely a little stipend for the students. And so that's a matching fund between UNAM and CSU for allowing these very bright students to come to Dr. Sunoda's lab and spend 4 weeks at least learning from different strategies. When we went to different laboratory techniques, when we went to Mexico City, Dr. Susan Sunoda told me, what are they going to learn? They have the same equipment, and they have more students than me. But I say, like, what they want to learn is the international experience. Mexican students always want to test themselves and go out and see what's going on a first, on a more developed country. And then they can realize their own potential. So it's very, very important, these experiences for Mexican students to realize how much potential do they have, how far can they go, and also this works as a way of detecting students that may be graduate students in CSU. You find someone who came for 4 weeks and is a bright student, you have nice chemistry, then maybe you are thinking about recruiting them for a master programs or for a PhD. So that's an example. Now in the website, there's another picture. There is the website of the National Bank of Mexico, the trust that they have for these loans. And you can go into their website and you can see CSU now being advertised. And so I think that's a very good thing for everyone to know. The next one, please. And now the other partnerships for research. This is also something very important that you need to know the people that are going to work with, you know, and what kind of projects. And we need to open doors. I'm going to be very brief, but basically when I started working at Los Santos Center, I had previous connections with the National Park Service in Mexico. They have set up these camera traps in the mountains in the Biosphere Reserve that is behind Todos Santos. It's a huge mountain that goes up to 6,000 feet. All the water that we have in Todos Santos comes from those mountains, from that Biosphere Reserve. It has a lot of mammals, and they have all these pictures that have been taken for years. They don't have the means to analyze them. And they said, you want to analyze them? Okay, yes. They gave me a whole set of pictures for 3 years. I analyzed it. For them, it's being published now on a bulletin, a local bulletin. It's being published in the Impacto portal, CSU Impacto portal, you know, that you can see at the Spur Center in Denver, at the Terra building. It's a map, and you can see the international projects of CSU. Now you can see the results of that research there. And also it's being published on an academic journal, on a peer-reviewed journal in Mexico. It's been accepted. It hasn't been published. Whenever it's published, I want to share it with you, but it's been accepted. And that opens the doors. Now CONAMP wants to work with us. You know? Like they say, like, we want to do restoration in the forest, in the Sierra. We want to do many projects in the Baja California Peninsula. How can we sign a collaboration agreement? You know? So we're working on that collaboration agreement. That will be an umbrella for many collaborations that we may do. Ryan here may start working on marine protected areas training course in Mexico. And we need them as partners. You know? So signing that collaboration agreement will facilitate this as well. So it's doing these small research projects, open doors. You know? Another thing that we're doing is a proposal. We're about to submit a proposal to the U.S. Embassy in Mexico for a project to advance the creation of measures to reduce the risk of whale collisions, the vessel collisions of ships to whales. We have the support now from NOAA, which is in trouble now, but we have support from NOAA. We have support from many universities in Mexico, including UNAM, CICIMAR, and others. We're about to get a support letter from the Mexican government and to host a workshop to develop these measures in Todos Santos. So that's another way of opening the doors. I mean, the collaborations need to be face-to-face and happen, and we have the center in Todos Santos to make these events happen in these connections in between different agencies, universities, etc. I just wanted to mention those opportunities there. And the next slide, please. I finished.
Yes.
And this thing, this is a survey. We want to know your opinion, how to collaborate with Mexico. So everyone online as well, and everyone here, you can go with your phone right now, scan the QR code, and answer a survey. It will take at the most 10 minutes, maybe less. And with that, we will finish the activity. I will share, if we have the list of the people who came, and I will make sure to share the results of the survey with everyone. So the more people, maybe we can leave it open for a few days, and if you know people in your schools, your departments, your colleges, and share the survey, I will leave it open for like a week or two, and then share the results, okay?
Okay, I'm gonna leave a few minutes for questions and answers. About 6 minutes, so that's good. You don't have to do the survey. Can you keep the survey, do it later?
You can just scan it, save the link, and do it later if you want. It's very simple.
Any questions? Online or here? Comments? Leslie?
Yeah, I'm curious, what does the facility at Todos Santos, what is it like? What can it support? Does it have like if we wanted to, during our next program accelerator, bring the cohort down and give them a nice place to stay and food just create a really nice environment for them with that support.
Depends on the dates,
Okay.
because it only can hold about 44 students, and that's in doubles and triples. So usually when we have adults coming for other things, we put them one to a room, which means there aren't a whole lot of spaces available.
Yeah.
So it's not a big facility in terms of overnight accommodations. We have a wonderful cook who prepares meals, and so the meals part, there's a classroom facility, there's rooftop facilities that are great for conversations and that sort of thing. But often bigger groups that need overnight will stay in a hotel and then use the center for all the conference types.
How many people were you thinking?
We normally probably have about 30 people, I would guess, yeah.
Willing.
If they're willing to share, and if it's not, we work all the students. We always put the student programming first.
Yeah.
And I know that one thing that I didn't address in mine, and that also the whole title of this is about a Mexico strategy, and we didn't present a strategy. There is one being worked on. It's not done yet, which is why I didn't give it to you. So there is an entire Mexico engagement strategy that's still being revised and tweaked by the president and provost. It will be socialized with people a little later as we get it more finalized. So you will have that. But one of the key features is trying to make the Todos Santos Center financially sustainable, and currently it is not, because it is limited in size, and there's only so much you could charge students, and they can still afford to go. We do want to make it accessible to students, and so trying to think of other creative ways by bringing other kinds of activities there, research partnerships that could, through indirect or other ways, bring some additional sources of revenue into the Todos Santos Center, as well as bringing additional student programs. There are some times of the year where it's full, and other times where there's hardly, maybe a group of 5 students is there with a faculty member, but otherwise the place is empty. So we need to try to more regularly fill it up.
I'd like to add that access to the site is quite easy from Colorado. There are nonstop flights. There are numerous nonstop flights between Denver and Cabo San Jose, CSJD, each day. And then there is a drive from the airport to Todos Santos, which is roughly comparable to the distance between and the time between Fort Collins and DIA. So it's very, very easy to get and convenient to get back and forth for those travelers who want to do that.
I have a question.
Yes.
So, Todos Santos is on this trajectory from becoming a resort town, but kind of from the small fishing village to becoming a resort town. Does that help, or does that hinder what you foresee being able to accomplish through the Todos Santos Center in the future?
I don't know that I would say it helps or hinders. It's just a fact of the development. So we already are starting to see changes in the economy. So some fishermen who have nicer boats being able to use them as tourist excursions, go out and try your hand at fishing, or go out and do whale watching or other things, knowing that that's why tourists might come to the area, not just for the fish you catch for the daily market, but for all the other neat things you might want to see. But it's actually that kind of development of a tourist economy that even makes it more pressing that some of the environmental challenges get addressed first. The capacity is not there to make it into a large tourist destination. It doesn't have enough water. It's a desert area, so there's just not enough water for new development, new homes, all that sort of thing. And there's no effective waste management. For all intents and purposes, it's like an island. You can't get anywhere else in Mexico unless you have to go through the US in order to get to Mexico, or you gotta fly. And so all the waste, even when they do a recycling program, which is huge, they're trying to really do recycling, but they have to then put it on a boat and take it to the mainland. There's no processing facility in the peninsula to handle recycling. So it's actually pretty expensive to do recycling because of all the transportation costs involved. And there's, like I said, there's no waste management. There aren't any regulated landfills. So expanding too rapidly creates all sorts of kind of development problems that affect the people who actually live there and have lived there for generations.
I will add really quickly that me as someone who lives in that community, that what we want to see always is like this is growing. It's also an agricultural town. It's not only a fisherman village. They grow the chiles and they grow strawberries and basil and other things for many, many years. And what we want to see is like thriving businesses and initiatives. We want to see, sometimes it's just like the season, the high season, when it's winter, when there's a lot of tourists and everyone is thriving, but then when the summer comes, nobody has money, right? So what we want to see is everything that happens there to be successful. We want to support that kind of things. It makes us happy to see CSU thriving, like that's what we want to see. We want to see everyone like thriving in it. Yes, it's growing. We're not able to stop it, and we don't want to stop it. People want more opportunities for their families, for their kids, and different activities. It's a small town, and everything new is good for the community.
And from my perspective, I'd like to add that Todos Santos is not a resort town per se, nor is it growing into one. It has a long history of an artisanal community, and it has been filled with a number of expats from America, visiting from those, but with native populations from America and from Canada for many years, and having a rich tapestry of artisanal activities. These days, rather than transient tourism, of which there is, of course, there is tourism, there's a growing expat community. And on what's called El Otro Lado, one side of the country, there are people who are living here, people who are moving here because of a quality of life that they find. There's a climate, there's a community, and it's quite positive in that regard, rather than negative. There are concerns, of course, like in any community, just like there are in Fort Collins, of the way that we develop the community, the activities and the resources and the infrastructure. There's always that concern, and this community, like every other, has its unique issues associated with it. A desert community, yet it is a thriving community, and as was just mentioned, Eduardo mentioned, is an interest in smart development to fill in some of the gaps that will make it more sustained over the entire year, rather than just certain climate directed seasons. Thank you.
Thank you. We ran over time a couple of minutes, so thank you. Mason, you want to wrap up?
I just want to thank all of our panelists for joining us today. We really appreciate it. Thank you all for coming. And again, if you can take the time to do the survey, we would really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.